kind of ventured into ways of handling it just a little bit, but I want to kind of talk about handling rejection from a different perspective. We talked about ways of talking to people, but how did you, like within yourself, how did you get to the point of going to see a therapist or talking to somebody else?
That came about. I was having a conversation with someone, and again, not really knowing that the rejection had affected me in this arena, magnitude rather. And I said, well, if this hadn't happened to me, if my mom hadn't, gave me up and or gave me away, then I would have made better decisions in life, and
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have did this, and I probably would chose better in relationships, etc., etc. And my spirit, the Lord just said to me, how much longer are you going to use it as an excuse? And for some reason, the light bulb just went off like, wow, I have been doing that. And I hadn't realized that that's what I had been doing all this time. And at that moment, so I talked to God just like I talked to you. So my response was, well, how do I get unstuck? Because I realized at that moment I was stuck in this pain, in this area of rejection. How do I get out of it? And, me and God had this dialogue. But so I said within myself, I'm going to go to counseling, because back in the day, now everybody is about their mental health and stuff. But back then, we weren't going to see therapists. You're crazy. What? We don't go see. No. We're not going to see no doctor. We're not crazy. We're not taking no Prozac or whatever. No crazy people. But I needed to go seek help. And when I did that, because I want to be better, it's just something when God reveals himself, reveals you, to you, it's like, what are you going to do about it? So now I'm responsible for what I know about me. And I want to be better, not only for myself, but for my children and for the, family and whoever I work with, So I began to go seek counseling, and it was through that. Of course, I was brought up in church, so it's like, supposed to pray, I prayed, but I still had this issue. And it was not until I went to counseling where I was able to release everything that I had been feeling all these years. And she helped me sort through, my feelings and emotions. So that was how I started dealing with the initial way I started dealing with it. And with that, she gave me some exercise. But one of the things that affirmations, I believe in them. And I love scriptures, because scriptures in the Bible also give you encouragement. But, for me, when I read scriptures in the Bible, I'm reading to get some understanding, because I'm about to minister to someone in some capacity, and always the word is to you first. But so I just started reading scriptures and using affirmations as well. But I was repeating them daily, because now I needed this to seep into my spirit, because I needed to change how I had been thinking all these years. This is, you're dealing with something. And so you are programmed I had programmed myself really, to think a certain way. So now I got to change my thought process. I had to change all of that. So through scripture, through prayer, counseling, and affirmations, I began this journey, and my mindset began to change. So I like the mind transformational is what I want to say. This transformation began to take place with me, and how I dealt with rejection.
Man, that is so good. And you said a couple of different things that I kind of want to harp on. We'll go back and kind of address as well.
Yes.
The first thing I heard you say, and I'm kind of paraphrasing, I hope you don't mind,
Sure.
that the first person that the word is actually written for is me.
Yes.
So we have to be careful about what we read and go and try to project on somebody else. If I am not applying it first, and it doesn't mean I have to perfect it, but if I'm not applying it first, then I shouldn't even be sharing it. And I think that's important, because when it comes down to handling rejection, there is a part of me that is literally suffering in silence. Right? I am going through something internally, and that word is actually there to help me overcome that thing that I'm suffering with.
Exactly.
And I heard you also mention that you had a person to talk to. You had somebody that you could actually talk to.
Yes.
And for me to get to that point, I think and I like to call them, they kind of they bridge gaps, right? In order for me to learn that somebody was there to bridge my gap, it was important for me to understand that this thing that I'm struggling with was not custom fitted for me.
Right.
It's more normal than I realized. Like there are a lot of people there. Trust me, there were a lot of dark-skinned brothers back then. That, you know what I'm saying? So I wasn't the only
Yes.
person that was dealing with colorism. Like a lot of other people in our communities dealt with it as well. But the first time I heard one of them made mention of it, I was like, yes, now I can talk to somebody else because
Right.
they
Right.
understand my
Stand.
struggle.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
what we did is we talked about it, but I was fortunate to be with a person who he not only talked about it, he talked about how we can get, move beyond that now. And I
Right.
think that's
Right.
important for me because a lot of times what we do is we talk about a problem set, but the only thing we keep doing is just recycling the understanding of the problem set.
Yes.
Just
Yes.
keep talking.
Yes.
Another person want to talk about it, then another person want to talk about it, and next thing you know, we got hours of talking about problems. Well, when do we get to the point of talking about the solution to the problem? And
True.
for me, that was important, right? Because when I heard that young man speak about how he is overcoming it, I was like,
Right.
great.
Right.
And it was almost like he gave me permission to overcome it as well through understanding that he was actually
Most
doing it.
definitely. And
And
I think that's important as far as people sharing and being transparent, which is why I feel like I'm on this journey to help people
yeah,
and empower people out of not just the rejection, but some other things that I've experienced in life. I never talk about it. And it wasn't until I wrote this book, Misery, Mess, and Miracles. And in that book, even though it's fictional, it has a lot of me in it. But even as people were reading that book, it's like, oh my gosh, this is me. I'm so glad you shared this or
yeah,
what have you. I'm just like, wow. So I've been sitting here, throughout the years dealing with this pain and trauma that I was dealing with, not knowing that other church members or my peers, co-workers, family members were dealing with the same thing because we're quiet. And
yeah.
in the Black household or family of color, we're told that whatever happens in this household stays in this household.
Yep.
So you don't tell nobody your business. You don't tell what's going on inside the house or whatever. So you carrying around all this hurt and these experiences. You can't talk to nobody. And it's not until some bold, courageous person takes the initiative and says, I'm going to share my story or I'm going to talk about it
Yeah.
for other people to open up and be like, okay, me too.
Yeah,
I'm there.
absolutely.
I understand. So we have to talk about it. And I'm not saying put every little detail out there, but hey, if you dealt with rejection, let's talk about I dealt with it and this is how I got over it.
Right.
If it was an abuse of some type of relationship that you were in, let's talk about it. And like you said, don't just talk about it, but what was the resolve? What was the resolution? How did I get there? Take me on this journey with you so I can get out, because I want to get out the hole too.
Absolutely.
So, we got to tell people, we got to share.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love how you're saying that, right? Because I want to go back to that progression that I actually heard in your story. So first, the word reveals, right? It reveals myself to me. I think that's important. The next thing was you started talking about how you transformed, right? And so we talked about these people who give us permission through sharing their experiences, and then we feel compelled to share ours because now we feel it's safe. And then from there, we just start talking about what it looks like, how it feels, and then how we can overcome. And so the next thing that we understand the word does, the word actually not only reveals, but the word transforms, right?
it.
So the word gives us the way out. It helps us to
Exactly.
transform or rewrite the code that you talked about. And that's one of the things I share all the time. Like, you have some people who reveal that there is a code, but then you have some people who understand how to rewrite the code. And when I figured out how to rewrite my code, that's what put me on the coaching journey, because I said, if that's what it is, then I know that there are a lot of people out there who are struggling with a thing just like I did, and I want to be a help. And so the third thing the word does is the word actually puts you in a position so that you can be the bridge for someone else, having them to bridge the gap from where they are to where they're trying to get to. And those were the three main points that I heard you talk about just now. And I think that in turn is kind of like universal for everything. It doesn't matter what we're going through. We can talk rejection, we can talk relationship, we can talk whatever that looks like. And if you take those three key points and take it and drop it on top of whatever that situation is, I guarantee that it will work from start to finish if we apply ourselves and we commit to helping somebody else do it as well. So I greatly appreciate you sharing that, because again, there is somebody, I just believe that there is somebody who is hearing this right now that is struggling with something. They feel rejected, they don't feel worthy, they don't feel good enough. And I just believe that if they listen closely to the words that you're sharing, I believe that they can get to the point where they say, you know what? I too can overcome this feeling that I'm going through every day.
Yes. I want to add another piece to this on the rejection side that helped me along my journey. So as I'm going through my therapy, lo and behold, and I'm I'm in my late 30s, going through this process. So I carried this around. I'm not 60, but half of my life, almost half of my life. But so I'm in my 30s and I'm going through this process. And God blessed me to meet my biological mother. So having a conversation with her about how I felt, because I had questions, so it's something that I always pray for. I want to know who I am, and I didn't have any animosity, but I did want to know why. I want to know why. Why did you give me up? What happened? Blah, blah, blah. So when speaking with her and having this conversation, I heard her story and I understood why she felt like she had to give me away. And although I believe her giving me away was God ordained, because I would not be the person who I am today if she had tried to keep me, I believe that with all my heart. I believe it was for my family to raise me. So that could be one of the reasons I could be sitting here on this podcast with you today. So it was all God ordained. Yeah. But it was not anything how I even thought it as a child, because again, I never thought as a child that she had to give me away, or she was forced to give me away. This is like, your mother didn't want you. I didn't think that she maybe was a teen mother and didn't have the capacity or the ability to raise me. It was all I knew, all I heard, what I processed was that my mother gave me away. How could a mother do that? Yeah. So when I listened to her story, I understood that even helped me on my journey, healing journey, is that it was necessary. But I'm not even going to go there. But some things we go through in life, it may be painful, but it's necessary. There's a whole message in that. But it was necessary. So what I had processed in my head all these years was not even what it was. And sometimes when we're dealing with rejection, whether it's from a family member, whether it's from your job, maybe you didn't get a position that you applied for, we internalize, oh, they just don't like me, so they didn't hire me, or whatever, they didn't promote me because of this, or, he decided to go off and date somebody else and marry someone else, and you personalize it and be like, no. So sometimes what our mind is allowing us to think is not even reality. It's Absolutely. Not real. Yeah. So I just want to say that you have to ask yourself the question, why? Yeah. Why is it affecting me this way? And if you can go back to the source, that the person that, bestowed this rejection upon you, find out their why. And because you'll find out sometimes it's not even what you're thinking, but our mind, if you don't know the answers, our mind will form its own, and a lot of times what it's forming its own, it's not right. It's not correct. So you have to pay attention to what you're thinking and processing in your mind.
No, that's good. I'm glad you brought that to the table. Negativity bias. We always do it. The things that we don't know, we fill it in with the worst information that we can conjure up at that particular point in time. And, that's one of the things that, I really do believe that we suffer with a lot, negativity bias. If I don't know something, I shouldn't automatically assume the worst. But for whatever reason, we do that. But one of the things I started sharing, a few years back, if you don't know, why not assume the best possible outcome that can possibly be? And I got it. It's very difficult in your particular situation as you're sharing it, because it's kind of hard to fathom that what could be a positive outcome. And this kind of reminds me of a conversation that I had with a friend a few years back. It's not 100% like yours, but it's similar. And I said, you don't necessarily know the reason why. And I said, for you to assume the worst is not necessarily good. I said, why not go talk to that person? That's right. Then when they did that, the outcome was just phenomenal. And man, I am just so happy at the relationship that they have today, because it is thriving. It's fruitful. It is a beautiful relationship today.
That's awesome.
So it's just, and when you said that, it just kind of brought that back to my thoughts. And, shout out to both of them, man, because they're just doing so well. And I'm just super excited just to even know both of them in the same space, and having the ability to talk to both of them and hear the joys in their voice from, just connecting. And it's all happened because one person made a decision to erase the negative bias that exists in their head. And I thank you for sharing that, because you're absolutely right. And it doesn't have to be something that monumental either. It could be something very small.
Exactly.
We get a letter in the mail from the IRS. Oh, this letter is bad. You ain't even opened the letter yet. You know what I'm saying?
They're trying to audit me. What's going on?
Right, exactly.
There could be a check in there.
Absolutely. It's like, man, why assume the worst? But that's what we do. We are,
That's true.
and I don't really know where it comes from. I'm sure that there's some, book on psychology that exists somewhere that gives you the blueprint of how we got to this point. But I
Right,
think
right.
a part that actually feeds into that is all of the negative information that we take in on a consistent basis. You turn on the news, it's 90% negative. It's like you'll get one feel good story on the news, but then the next 4 hours is just how bad the people are of the United States or the world, period.
Yes. Yeah.
You go to social media, you get, just flooded with just bad information. And so we have to be consciously aware of the stuff that we take in, because that stuff that we take in seeps deep into us, and it comes out in some shape, form, or fashion. And that, I believe, is one way.
I believe because we all want to be needed, we want to be loved, we want to be wanted, we want to feel like we matter. And when someone or something rejects us or makes us feel rejected, our mind will automatically think negative, because what positive reason would you turn away from me? What reason could you give me that you didn't select me for the position and I feel like I'm qualified, or I know that I am?
Yeah.
What reason can you give me for breaking up with me when I've given you my all and I love you and I've done all I can to make this relationship work, but yet you turn away from me? What positive reason can you give me to make me feel better? So our mind automatically will go to the negative, because it's like, hey, I know I'm qualified. I know there's worth and there's value in me, but you don't recognize it. Now, we're not saying you don't recognize it, but for some reason you just don't want me. So why? Am I not good enough? So it's always going to be a negative thought, so to speak. It's not going to be, well, he's making the best choice for himself, regardless of the fact that I'm still a great person. For me, I never thought that, because my mom was a teen mother and she felt it best for her to give me away so I could have a better opportunity in life. I didn't think that. But were the positive reasons behind it. Later on in life, I found that out, of course, but I didn't know that as a child.
Right.
So, when we are rejected or we feel like we're not wanted, our mind will automatically go there, because it's like, we're not thinking that what is the best possible reason. Like you said, what is the best possible reason that this has occurred? It's like, oh no, I know I'm good enough. I know that I'm loved and I have these qualities, but why? So it's got to be a bad reason, a negative reason.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's really good, and I agree with that. I mean, just wholeheartedly. Because again, I'm not exempt. I did the same thing in the past as well. And to be honest with you, I still do it today. We have to be consciously aware and consciously thinking in the moment, whenever situations happen. Again, I get a letter in the mail from the IRS and I start to feel some type of way before I even open the letter. So I'm making my business to open it on the spot, because I got to get to it. Let me hurry.
Because the IRS,
yes,
the IRS has this negative tone associated with it. They're coming for you. It's nothing ever good. They're taking my money every month, every week. So what are you sending this letter for? Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I get hammered by the IRS. I don't even want to talk about them, to be honest with you. So let's stay on rejection, because the IRS rejects me every month by taking my rejection.